This is a GGP TV production.
T-SPLOST will create 200,000 jobs.
We hear this fib every time powerful private interests want to get their hands on our tax dollars. Just remember that the Atlanta Regional Commission, the Chamber of Commerce, the mayor, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution all said Atlantic Station would bring 30,000 permanent jobs and the Beltline would make 70,000 jobs.
The AFL-CIO, who ought to know, don't believe this lie and rejected the mayor's plea to endorse the T-SPLOST. The fat cats are so attached to this lie that although they forgot to include it in the legislative language, Georgia Secretary of State Brian Kemp violated the law by including the word transportation and the phrase to create jobs in the ballot language voters will see on Election Day.
T-SPLOST is a fair and equitable way to raise money for mass transit.
If sales tax are so fair, why is all this fairness disproportionately inflicted on Fulton, Atlanta, and DeKalb residents who will be paying 2 cents while everyone else pays only 1 cent?
And sales taxes are profoundly unfair taxes to begin with. Sales taxes are regressive, which means they fall most heavily on low-income consumers, more lightly on those with higher incomes, and almost not at all on big corporations and other wealthy institutions like Emory University, which literally gets its own transit line at virtually no cost to itself.
Taxes should be for everybody, including the wealthy and big corporations, not just for little people. The T-SPLOST project list came out of an open, fair, and public process that involved thousands of people.
The project list was concocted behind closed doors by a 21-member roundtable of elite politicians and their campaign contributors, along with other one-percenters like the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Chamber of Commerce. They presented it to the public in meetings as announcements, not suggestions.
When the PR hacks say thousands were involved, they're counting everybody as a participant they made a robocall to who didn't hang up in the first 15 seconds. The fat cats backing T-SPLOST are raising and spending almost $10 million on a deceptive PR campaign to pass this referendum.
Minority communities like South DeKalb, which were promised rail 30 years ago, are pushed to the back of the line in favor of streetcars to the aquarium and the Emory CDC Clifton Corridor line. Transit planning should be done in the light of day with input from all communities concerned.
The T-SPLOST project list can be amended by local communities.
Local politicians love to tell this lie to constituents who notice that there's nothing in the T-SPLOST list for their communities. But it is a lie. T-SPLOST legislation specifically says that projects cannot be amended or substituted.
T-SPLOST revenue will help fund MARTA.
T-SPLOST legislation specifically forbids T-SPLOST funds from being used for MARTA operations. T-SPLOST will make necessary the creation of a new body, mostly appointed by the governor, which will replace MARTA as a designated recipient of federal transit funds for Metro Atlanta.
Thus, hostile suburbanites whose constituents invested nothing in MARTA will then control its federal funds. Atlanta, Fulton, and DeKalb residents whose taxes built and maintained MARTA's multi-billion-dollar infrastructure for over a generation will be cut out of any control over their public investment and their transit futures.
T-SPLOST sets MARTA up to be isolated and starved.
Ultimately, a fiscal crisis will be provoked, to be followed by a state takeover, ending in the likely privatization of MARTA.
The T-SPLOST will help fund the Beltline, and that's a good thing. The Beltline is a colossal real estate swindle that diverts hundreds of millions of dollars yearly from Atlanta's cash-strapped and mostly black public schools to enrich well-connected developers, build yuppie housing and shopping. It economically develops Atlanta neighborhoods by gentrifying them,
displacing poor and mostly black residents to nobody cares where. That means the Beltline is racist as well.
Sold to the public as a transit project, the Beltline never intended to use any of its billions on transit except bike trails and 5K runs. The biggest chunk of T-SPLOST money in the Atlanta region goes to bail out the Beltline with streetcars to the West End and the Aquarium, and to give Emory and CDC their own light rail link to the airport.
There are safeguards against T-SPLOST funds being misspent.
No way! There's about $1 billion gap between the published project costs and the revenue projections. Apparently there is a slush fund to be doled out to local officials for
pet projects in return for their support of the July 31st referendum.
T-SPLOST is backed by grassroots citizens groups who want better transit.
Real grassroots citizens groups don't attract 5 or 10 million in contributions from the same wealthy interests that bankroll the politicians of both parties. Grassroots groups cannot afford slick PR firms and platoons of paid speakers and organizers, thousands of billboards, bus posters, road and yard signs.
Citizens groups believe in open, fair, democratic processes with public oversight instead of plans cooked up in back rooms and served up with deceptive ad campaigns and last chance take it or leave it propositions to untie Atlanta's traffic knot.
If the T-SPLOST doesn't pass, there is no plan B.
This is Atlanta's last chance to invest in transit.
This last chance, take it or leave it nonsense comes from the same old good boys who cooked this mess up in the back room somewhere. The fact is, you can move a bus factory to Jacksonville or Brazil, but you can't move road improvements or bus and streetcar lines.
real investment in real transit won't go away if we vote down T-SPLOST. The law says we really want to fund transit with sales tax. We can come up with a new, better, and fairer list and vote again in 2 years. 2 years is time enough to make a process that includes all the communities whose input was never sought by the gang that giving us T-SPLOST.
T-SPLOST will untie Atlanta's traffic knot and reduce commute times.
If you work at Emory or CDC, that might be true. It's not true if you live in South Fulton or South DeKalb, which have paid a penny sales tax into MARTA for a generation and still don't even have 24-hour bus service. It won't be true in Cobb either, where the already privatized bus company devotes almost half its total resources to downtown commuters, while neglecting service to local jobs, educational opportunities, shopping, government agencies, or medical services within Cobb County. The T-SPLOST mailer says that $695 million will go toward bus or rail between Ackworth and Cobb and MARTA's Art Station. That's 22 miles. Let's see, and rail costs $600 million or more for 1 mile? So that's a lie inside of another lie, one of many in this package.
Just look at Greta if you want to see the mass transit vision of T-SPLOST creators. If you're outside the perimeter, any T-SPLOST bus money will be for luxury buses to downtown Atlanta and to the airport, not service between local jobs and other destinations in Clayton or Rockdale or Cherokee or Gwinnett. The Georgia Green Party believes transit investment should benefit the people who live in metro Atlanta neighborhoods now, not just the powerful and the privileged, or the newer upscale residents developers and their captive Democratic and Republican politicians want to attract.
T-SPLOST will create 200,000 jobs. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong is that it's a lie, one of many which T-SPLOST backers are spending millions trying to sell the public. Among the wealthy donors who gave more than $100,000 to bankroll T-SPLOST's blizzard of lies are Georgia Power, Home Depot, AT&T, Delta Airlines, Cox Enterprises, and the National Association of Realtors, along with highway construction companies C.W. Matthews and Yancey Brothers. Here are the rest of those top 10 lies.
Now that's a lie. That's a lie. No way.
Yeah, right.
That's not true.
When pigs fly.
It's
you
a lie.
Believe that nonsense?
That's a lie.
Nonsense? You really believe that?
That's a lie.
You really believe that nonsense?
No way.
You know better
No way.
than that. You know better than that.
T-SPLOST is the billionaire's plan for Metro Atlanta Transit at your expense. Vote no on July 31st. Paid for by the Georgia Green Party. www.georgiagreenparty.org. Al Herman, Treasurer.